Texas emerged from this creeping modernity with a new mythology based on long-standing truths. Current events shrouded the stories of the pioneering generations, and newcomers took the place of the old-timers. Mundane events in the past took on new meanings and new importance. The story of Texas, as it came to be told, became a reflection of the Texas society telling it. The Alamo absorbed and in turn radiated this mythology. Yet its story too was complicated. The old mission that had been turned into a fortress was already crumbling when it became the symbol of resistance to Mexican tyranny. When Centralist troops left Texas in the aftermath of the Battle of San Jacinto, soldados, Mexican soldiers, had demolished what they could of the Alamo. The entire town of Bear had suffered. The stately trees of its Alameda cut down to provide fuel to burn the bodies of the slain Alamo defenders. When Texan troops reoccupied the town, some officers even suggested demolishing what was left of the old relic to avoid having to ever fight over it again. Juan Seguin had returned, scooped what ashes he could find, and deposited them beneath the altar of the San Fernando Church. Even so, the ashes of David Crockett, William Baird Travis, James Bowie, James Bonham, and perhaps 200 or more other Texian defenders remained mingled with the mud and dust of the town that had tried hard to forget its violent history. When U.S. troops came to Bear, they occupied the Alamo. They restored it, put a roof on the ruins of the church, and added its distinctive hump facade. For the next 15 years, they renovated and modified the Alamo complex, where it served as a supply depot for forts all along the Texas frontier. In 1861, the Alamo was again the scene of martial drama as secessionist forces seized the post from U.S. troops. In 1883, the state of Texas bought the church building, while Hugo and Schmelzer, a wholesale grocer, bought the convent area, what had been the Long Barracks during the battle. What had once been a battlefield now languished as vacant buildings and a commercial enterprise. Meanwhile, the growing city of San Antonio erased the remaining vestiges of the Alamo compound walls. By 1892, a woman named Adina de Zavala took notice. A school teacher and granddaughter of Texas patriot Lorenzo de Zavala, she was living in San Antonio and watched as the site deteriorated. Inspired by the story of its 1836 defense, she decided to save the Alamo. The firm of Hugo and Schmelzer promised to give Zavala the first right of refusal on buying their building. She turned to the newly established Daughters of the Republic of Texas for help, but the property remained just out of reach. What they needed was cash, which Clara Driscoll, the granddaughter of pioneering Irishmen and daughter of a Texas cattleman, had plenty of. She bought the Hugo and Schmelzer property and in turn transferred it to the state of Texas. What remained of the Alamo was now in public hands to be reunited with the old church. While Texas held title to the real estate, officials did not want to tend to it. Instead, they passed stewardship back to the Daughters of the Republic of Texas. The women of Texas had saved the Alamo. The Daughters of the Republic of Texas turned it into a shrine to Texas liberty, a tangible reminder that the heroic past of Texas should be honored, and that it should not be swallowed up by time and modernity. how the Alamo would be remembered would become the next battle for this historic landmark. The Texas myth had now gained an origin story. The Alamo became the symbolic birthplace of the Lone Star story, and busy and exotic San Antonio, every Texan's second hometown.